so you need to try to make it also smart. The other problem I have is the way you set your research questions. If you look at research questions for objective 1, they are not directly correlated. Because the research question seems to be specific. I think you're talking about accuracy, but objective 1 is just general. So maybe you need to rewrite your objective 1 to relate to research question 2. And again, as I said, for objective 2, that's more general. You need to try to make it a little specific, and then you can provide the corresponding research question. Yes, I seem to like objective 4. It tends to relate with the research question. Although I don't understand why objective 3 will have 2 research questions. I think it will be a little easier if you do one objective and then one research question. So those are some of the general comments I have on that. I'll get to the methodology later. In general, there are so many things you need to keep on adjusting. We don't have the time. I'll try to highlight most of them. But because we do not have the time, let me just go directly to...
If you have the comments in the book, it's okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
So let's just focus on the...
Yes. So now, the literature, we have reviewed quite a lot of literature. Only challenge I have is, 1, you need to realign your objectives. Then, where necessary, make them smart. And then when you are reviewing your literature, it will be nice to have literature review related to your objectives. They should be that correspondence. Otherwise, there's just a lot of literature, you don't know which one is which for which objective. So you need to look into that. I think I already talked about referencing. For example, that NAPA 2007, why do you put N.A.P.A? Surely that should be a mistake. I think that was on page 60. So try to review your references. All right. For the methodology, again, generally, the methodology should reflect what your objectives are. So that simply means if your objectives have issues, then the overall methodology also has issues. So in general, you need to work on your objectives and then realign your methodology to suit the objectives. There might be already stuff there, but just for you to try to see how you can realign your methodology to the objectives. Now, maybe one specific question I will also want to ask here. The other one I have also raised again about the SHAPS data. I think there's been a very good discussion there. I think I've also learned a lot about mixing rice. For the information, I grow rice, so I find it very interesting. The specific question I will also ask here is, what was the criteria set for selecting the satellite data that you? Well, I mean, you can review them. There are so many data sets you review. So what criteria did you set beforehand for selecting the SHAPS data? I think that one will try to answer. 2, in terms of the methodology, I see you use geostatistics mainly. And yes, it's a good method, no doubt about it. But you should also be aware of the problems associated with the geostatistical model. The question is, what are these problems? you find that when I go back to your objective number 4, which I said is quite good, if you answer the question I've just asked you, then objective number 4 is not even there. Because actually also doing objective 4 is trying to solve a problem that are inherent in just statistical models. Yeah, so I hope we'll be able to answer that. Now, the other one of interest, well, the results are there, the discussions, as said, they are quite good, but again, they don't relate to the objectives, they don't relate to methods. In the discussion also will be erroneous in one way here. So we need again to align that. We have the contribution to knowledge. Now try to look at it. So it's a tough question. What's your contribution to knowledge? And when you read these contributions, someone might start thinking, I think it's no contribution. Because it should be like a dotted, small thing. What do you think? This is what I made a contribution to knowledge about. But for you, you have again bullets and bullets and bullets. Then you could combine all those bullets into that spot and say, this was my contribution to knowledge. Now, if you look at, for example, validating shaft data, they have already told you this has already been done. So I don't think that will qualify as a contribution to knowledge. I tried to take about the space-time cube. They have actually used this also before. I think I even downloaded the papers on my laptop. And then disseminating findings, I don't think that would qualify as a contribution to knowledge. Disseminate these findings. So you try to look at them and like, maybe you need to look through again I'm inclined to say that if your overall objective was really good, that's where your contribution to knowledge will come. But here it's like you're more to your results and again highlighting what your results are all about. And yes, as I said, there were so many concerns, but because we're trying to save time, everybody is tired. Let me just try to now. Literature review. 26 pages of literature of references. I found that very interesting. 26 pages. And I don't know the time it took to read all that. Even if you selected a few, but references of 26 pages. So surely, maybe you never know, we have done a lot of candles. Just too much. Now, I still want to add a few questions, specific questions that you can also handle in general. And the first
apply them accordingly. Since I plan to go through the whole book again, I'll be interested in realigning these along with the comments that I've been receiving in this presentation. Indeed, from the very last questions, what I will do differently, indeed my work had limitations, and I think one of the things I can do differently is to make my area of study smaller. For example, work with maybe the sub-zonic region, and that way I know that it's a group that has started work there, and they have extra history data sets about 18 weather stations there. So if that area was, if I did narrow down my area, then I would be able to use charts probably without by only testing it for bias in that area, since it does not perform well in that area. But then I would also revisit statistics in terms of scale, find out what scale that I can use differently. And yes, indeed, that is something I plan to do as part of my future research, to be able to narrow down this analysis and see how different the results come out. What was most challenging about this work, I think I underestimated the years of study involved and the points of analysis, and so it was quite a lot in terms of computing, but again it gave me a good experience to be aware of algorithms and their computational costs in my domain, spatial analysis, analysis. And what was interesting about the work, when I held a workshop with UNIMA, I found that one of the missing pieces to their analysis was having data behind those graded cells, and that's part of what was exactly in my work. So it was interesting for me to know that my work was indeed usable in the actual world, since when the country experiences events, they are required to produce data very quickly at the scale of that event, which is available when you use my models. So that was very interesting to me. In terms of the contribution, I'm going to work around the main objective so as to be able to note down that actual contribution. I think the rest are comments for me to really consider while I take on the final editing and doing this work.
Okay. I think you have withdrawn it too. True on the methodology, I'm not forgotten. The criteria you use to pick on that satellite data, the problems associated with your statistical models, and how you deal with them.
So, criteria for choosing the dataset was largely one on the regional representations. Some datasets, other alternatives that were available could not adequately cover the region, and or the scale at which they were was not sufficient for analysis, since I was looking at those scales. But then others had been reviewed in terms of region again, and they were not working well in our region, and work well in, for example, semi-arid areas, unlike the area we were working in. So I had that kind of criteria, but also I used what previous studies had looked at and considered appropriate for my area of study. Then in terms of geostatistics, yes, geostatistics has limitations. It is a sensitive and skillful part of geomatics, where scale variability actually has an impact on results, but also the errors resulting from weights and distances. In eliminating, for example, errors that come from weights and distances, within the space-time cube, I defined my neighborhood. It was not only tied to proximity, for example, but also to time, where I consider the nearer objects to have only nearer values in terms of time to have more influence than values that had happened long time ago. But also, during the course of analysis, it's also possible to get false positives during analysis because of the correlation and neighborhood analysis. And I deployed the false discovery rate to eliminate the false positives. In terms of scale, yes, I did the analysis on scale based on literature and recommendation, but when I recommend the 0.02, it's to open an avenue to actually restudy at different scale and develop conclusions from that scale.
We allow you to retake the penalty. I hope you're happy with the result.
Yes, but let me comment. For geostatistics, it might not apply to or it might apply to anyone. The data definitely affects the distribution of the data, affects the results, and normally the assumption is you have enough large data sets. When I saw your points, especially for what we call institute data, we're only using 20 points. So I don't think that one was good enough. And then also, it is assessed always to outliers as well as the errors of the measurement. I don't know if we evaluated the errors in the measurement of that data as well as the outliers. So normally now this generally affects the value that you try to generate. And normally what you need to do, yes, you can do what they call exploratory data analysis techniques if you want, to try to identify those outliers. And then once you do that, you can also, of course, try as much as possible to select a suitable data size or sample size, which I think was possible in your case. But the other one you could do is to do some testing of the variogram, different variograms, which I think you tried. Now the question is, that one is objective 4, but I already done objective 1 while we generating maps. So that means objective 4 should have really equipped objective 1. That means you eliminate objective 4. So just go and see what you learn.
Thank you. That's for the comment. Now, I am obliged to open to the public, since it's a public defense, and I'm only giving 5 minutes to that. If you're online and you have a question, please type it in here. If you're in the house, put your hand up. And I already have a question here from Bruno. Can we relate the results to the different solar cycles? Is there no correlation?
There are different players of climate, and climate change is affected by natural factors, solar cycle, climate eruptions, but this study concentrated on that. Further on precipitation, but for further research, yes, that's quite an happening.
Another person with a question?
Thank you very much, Ivan. Mine is very simple. I have complicated ones, but I'm hungry. The picture you showed of the young kid and the experience you went through, I have not gotten the idea of how now the current child, the current you who is a child, how he's going to be not be beaten. Were you beaten or you just missed, you suffered getting to go fetch instead of getting it from the roof? I have not picked how the current child now is going to survive that misery. That's the only thing I want. But I'm hungry, I should have asked more complicated ones.
Okay, I see. Prepared to answer that. Any other question? 2, 3. I think that will be the only question.
Okay, thank you. That's a very interesting question. Unfortunately, that child has been aided if the area has been narrowed, so maybe we will not communicate to Mukono, but the village in Mukono. And when I make one of the recommendations that the president said, certain advice about household, I was looking at that child, like, can prediction come down to his household? But yes, that's still another step to go. I want to acknowledge that the computer age has had an impact on how much we can do in terms of scale as well. And I believe as we go into the era of AI, then we should be able to probably have geofences looked to our households to generate that communication.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I remember those days on GBC, local scattered brains in the Lake Victoria Basin. We didn't know that we expect rain or not, but we just took it that it might not as good as not knowing what the weather will be. But if you are going to Europe, one important thing is the weather forecast. They say it's going to rain, it will rain. So I guess we want to get to that point where we're accurate with the predictions. That said, thank you very much. We've come to the end of this session. I'd like to invite my panel as a supervisor, which I'll put the JS lab. We'll have a brief discussion, and then we'll come and give the verdict of the discussion. So give us about 15-20 minutes, and we shall be back. Thank you very much.
Seven. Message. This is technology. It's too much. Really fake, but at least we can make the paper. You will see how people
just look a little bit of this one. Just make it. Leave the back below the seat. So shouldn't be too much. Because even if we use whatever it is now with that. I was fearing when I was extending this one, because I think the thing is making noise. Yeah, right. Yeah. Welcome.
We are back, and as you have noticed, it has been CEDAT deliberation, where we have taken excess time to review the presentation, the work, and after very careful consideration, the panel has found merit in this work. Recommended that you pass subject to corrections that you will get. So, those feel like congratulate you.
The stick will beat your wife is having to be used.